Maria Cornejo.
Thank you for having me.
We are very interested in how your training becomes pertinent in who you are today.
You mean by training where I went to school?
Yes, and yes.
Okay, so I went to school, I did graphics first at Stockport College for a year because I didn't want to do a foundation when I lived in Manchester. And I knew I wanted to do fashion, and so I did graphics because I thought that would be useful to go with fashion. And then I moved down to London and I applied for different schools, and I eventually got into Ravensbourne, which was an amazing school at the time with an incredible campus, you know, where you had like a architecture building, an art building, a fashion building, and it was all in this beautiful campus. And the teachers always encourage us to mix with each other rather than mixing with fashion. You know, do not mix with fashion people, mix with the art, mix with the architects, mix with the 3D designers, mix with the graphic designers. So for me, that's why I never think of fashion per se as inspiring. I think it's more about being creative and being a designer rather than this thing of fashion, you know?
Yeah, isn't that curious that in the 80s, sort of the fashion then, sort of, you remember, I'm sure, London was thriving with ideas and fashion, and you were in the same league, the same time as people like Galliano, and you were with John Richmond, you had your brand Richmond.
Everybody remembers that.
Yeah.
Yes, it was a long time ago. I mean, I came out of college at 21. My college show was really successful. I sold it to Joseph and Whistles, and my boyfriend at the time was John Richmond, and we were living together. So we decided to join forces, and why do two separate collections? So we did one, and then Joseph backed the first show. But it was an incredible time also because we were like coming after punk, and we just wanted to make stuff. It wasn't about making, we didn't come out like with a business plan like people do now. It was more about just being creative, and like anything was possible if you had the energy and the talent to do it. And it wasn't like now you have to come out with a business plan basically, and how you're going to get everything done from A to Z, whereas in those days we were just like really naive and just like we were just trying things. And we were part of a community that was really vibrant. You know, it was all the club kids, and we were dressing the club kids. We were dressing out, you know, our tribe, which was great. Sorry, I'm shouting here.
But that's really, really the thing about how London in those days, there was the punk, there was the new wave, there was so many things happening. There was the club scene.
Yes.
And you find that even in New York, there was the photographers, there was the theater, there was a lot of things merging together symbiotically.
Yeah.
Do you think that is something that we've lost today?
I don't know. I think, you know, maybe in the main cities here, but I mean, I think there's artists everywhere. I think they left the center because nobody can afford to live in the center anymore. But people still mix that, you know, like last night I went to the artist studios near here. I think it's different, but it's because people are much more knowledgeable. I mean, we were like silly, like stupid. We were so naive.
Right.
I mean, people are so much more knowledgeable now. I mean, I talk to everybody, like everybody I work with, they're way smarter than I am, and they're much more cultured. But I've lived longer, you know, so I win on that one.
Right. Absolutely.
You know? But I don't know how to do Photoshop and all that stuff. But, you know, the reality is that it was just more of an energy and a naivety, and I think it still exists in certain quarters. It's just not centered in Manhattan or in London. There's, you know, there's creative hubs everywhere around the world now. It's less about London, Paris, Milan. You know, there's fashion weeks everywhere around the world. There's design weeks It's become very globalized, and with the advent of Instagram and, you know, the internet, everybody has the opportunity now to throw themselves out there, you know?
Yeah, do you think at the end of the day that is a plus? Is it something to be desired, that what used to be sort of a niche industry was sort of a fashion, but now it's global, and there's literally every city has a fashion week. Do we need that many fashion weeks?
I believe that everybody should have the chance to show their stuff. I mean, I think, you know, I also believe that every country has their talent. I don't think, I mean, fashion per se is quite elitist, but at the same time, I think we can all find our tribe, we can all find our niche. And I think what it's given everybody is the chance to put their work out there. And doesn't mean they're going to succeed, but at least they have the chance to put it out there where it's not through the filter of a buyer, a store or a magazine, or, you know, a celebrity. It's very much what they're putting out there, and it's, you know, it's quite democratic in that way, which is great.
Which brings me to the thought about the creation of collections and the way Paris is sort of, you use that word elitist?
Yeah.
Do you think there's any reason why everybody's dream is to, every designer's dream is to show in Paris or to be in Paris? And how come have you ever had that desire? And
I showed once in Paris.
Oh, okay. And how was that?
Right after I split up with John. It was, I think it was 1989, 90. And it was very expensive. I was working with an Italian company at the time and Japanese, and in the end the Italians ended up not paying for the show, so I had to pay for it myself, which was, at the time it was like 90,000 euros, which is a lot of money, and it came out of my pocket. So I'm not, whatever. I mean, Paris has, you know, the thing about Paris that is, because it's got this energy, is that logistically everybody goes to show there, because at the end of the season it's easier for everybody to converge in one city, one of the most beautiful cities in the world, to buy fashion for all the buyers from America, from, you know, from everywhere. And it becomes almost like the social life. A lot of the buyers use it also, like they go and stay for a month and they see all the collections. And so there's an energy there that isn't everywhere else, because people also can't afford to go to every fashion week. So it's, yeah, no, it's interesting.
It's centralized, and that's where everybody goes.
Yes, and it's the last of the fashion week. So if they're going to do one fashion week, they go, well, if we're going to spend the budget, we'll go to Paris and see everybody in one fell swoop.
Show.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's how it works.
That's very interesting. And also, when we think about the system in America, which I've heard that American students, American designers tend to sort of gear towards being more financially viable, you know, sell.
Well, yes, because American schools are so expensive, so they have to. I mean, when the parents are paying like nearly $100,000 a year. I mean, my son went to art school, to Bard, not art school. He did economics and design. It's a fortune. So that you know, and a lot of students have that debt, so they have to come up with that mindset. Whereas, I don't know what it's like now in Europe, but when I went to art school, it was very much done on, you would get into art school if your portfolio was up to it. It wasn't about whether you could pay for it or not. So they were very strict. They were really horrible. Like the teachers, the crits, they tried to really push any sort of weakness out of you, because the first year they treated you like shit if you got in, because basically it was about breaking you down to see if you could stand up to do it yourself.
Right.
Because they knew what it was like. It's not an easy business to be in.
Right.
You know, I mean, I remember many a time that I was showing in Paris, and the buyers would come by and they said, well, Maria, we love your collection, but your Italians are not shipping on time, so we're not buying it. And I used to go behind and cry behind the changing room. Wow. Now I'm like, whatever. You know, but it's just
been there, done that.
Yeah, but I think it's just, and I think they're much more aware that the expectations is tough, you know, for everything.
Right.
Anything creative, and they have to come out running. I mean, I was critiquing some of the Parsons students, and I went to the fashion show, and there was 265 graduates. Amazing, but yes, no, because there's not 265 jobs. And so, you know, these kids are coming out with all this knowledge and enthusiasm, and then how they're going to get on in the world. You know, I think the issue right now is there's too much of everything. There's too many designs, too many photographers, there's too many, everything. It's like, really, there's too much of everything. So Whereas the pie before was like divided between the really big companies and the new. Now it's just like so divided up because there's just so much of everything.
Yeah.
You know, whether it's magazines or like everybody's on Substack. I mean, I don't have the time to read everything right now. I mean, it's just so, everything is so pixelated and sort of spread thin.
Yeah.
So how do we keep ourselves, you know, sane within that?
Yeah, the fashion industry is absolutely definitely oversupplied.
Yes.
I mean, meaning, if you think about it, all that merchandise, all that stuff, what gets done with it?
Yeah.
You know, and this brings us to sustainability, about what is the point, this system of season after season, going and getting a wardrobe, and then what do you do with it after that? How much can you consume?
I think the reality is that nobody buys a new wardrobe every season, but they do want newness in the wardrobe. I mean, because nobody has the money to actually literally buy a whole new wardrobe every season, but they will pick pieces that relate to them. And with the stores, the way that they buy it is that they have a certain amount of pieces that refresh things, you know, and then, but nobody buys a whole new wardrobe every season. I mean, I get a whole new wardrobe every season because I get a personal order.
Yes.
And I tend to not order everything. But I think people also now mix everything, you know, they're just mixing old, new, vintage, high, low, everything. It's not like it used to be that you had to have the handbag and the shoe and the this. And, I mean, I think finally now people are not so into having the expensive handbag. People are taking the risk and buying labels that are not the well-knowns because, you know, like I used to laugh about it. I said, why would you want to spend $3,000 and to be advertising a designer? You know, if you have the money to shop, then you shouldn't be advertising for somebody as well.
Yeah.
You know, but it's people's insecurity. So
yes, absolutely. I guess it's all perspective and a point of view. Thinking about again this idea of resale and vintage, and I see that the resale market is really picking up. A lot of people are shopping for brand designers. There's a lot of it out there.
Yeah, it's so funny because this morning I was talking to my son and there was a package that arrived. He ordered a pair of pants and stuff, and he said, "Mom, open them for me," because he had them shipped to my house.
Right.
And they're like Balenciaga cargo pants. I went, "Oh, okay." He said, "Yeah, I got them on Grilled, and if I get them shipped to London, they're going to charge me like 30%, but you can bring them for me."
Wow.
So, but he bought them, second hand, and I think everybody now they thrift, they look around, they also, I mean, personally for me, the biggest compliment is when a woman says to me, "I've got things from 20 years ago of yours, or from when you opened the store and I still wear them."
Right.
And I think that is sustainable. Because if people keep things in their wardrobe and they love them, I hate sales because I hate the mentality that you buy things because they're cheap, because you end up buying things that you don't really love. You buy them because they're cheap.
They're cheap. You can get them.
Yeah.
They're there.
But when you buy things, the idea is quite old-fashioned that you saved up for something and you really treasure something. To me, that's more sustainable. It's more like the European way of thinking, or like, even Chile or whatever, that you sort of saved up and you bought beautiful things and you kept them. It wasn't disposable.
Yeah.
And I think it's changing in America, because when I first moved here, I used to say, you would see on 9th Street like new couches thrown away and people would change the decor and the whole thing was thrown out and it was brand new. There was nothing wrong with it. And I think now people are becoming much more aware here that, you can keep things don't have to be thrown away, that you can have something from your grandparents living with something new and modern. Right. The idea that you can assemble your own style without having to scratch everything and start from nothing again. Do you know what I mean? I think people are feeling more confident about their style, and I think that's great.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. Also, I would like to talk, there's so many topics that we'd like to cover, but we don't really have time. But I'd like to talk about this CFDA. And how long have you been a member now?
Oh God, a long time, probably like 20 years.
Yeah.
And I've been on the board now for probably since 2020.
Okay, that's
On the board, I was asked to be on the board by Tom Ford and then Tom Brown. Yeah.
okay, great. So tell me, what are the things that the CFDA is sort of contributing or offering to the industry?
Well, the CFDA has different programs. One is manufacturing, which is run by Cal, and he is in charge of running all the manufacturing, initiatives, and basically getting grants from the city to allow the factories to stay in New York City.
Wow.
And giving grants and things like that, which is great. Then there's the sustainability committee, which I'm part of as well with a few other people, and that we're just trying to push people to be more sustainable. We meet regularly,
Okay.
Then there's other areas, there's the CFDA Vogue Fashion Fund where, fashion students get given prizes if they go through this very rigorous, program. I'm not part of the CFDA Vogue Fashion Fund, but I
Right.
know it's quite tough. I mean, we won the CFDA Sustainability for menswear one year, and then we won it also for the collection another year. But it is like educational programs. There's a website that people can look into. Not everybody can become a member. It's quite selective now because for a lot of years it was very much like whoever wants to join was basically being allowed to join.
Okay.
And Tom Ford and Tom Brown, especially Tom Brown, said no, the CFDA needs to stand for creativity, American creativity, not just who can pay to get in.
Get in, wow.
So now it's quite stringent to get in.
Get in.
Yeah.
That's-
And a lot of people are part of the CFDA Vogue Fashion Fund, but they're not members. They have to be invited in.
I see. So there's
Yeah.
the membership is different from the fashion fund.
Yeah.
Oh, a lot of people don't know that.
Yeah. No, I mean, I had this conversation the other night with Stephen Cole saying we need to do a better job of communicating what the CFDA is doing because people don't understand. It's very separate things. And, one thing is the programs with Vogue that, CFDA does. Other programs with sustainability, they also do, a lot of like last year when I won this Lifetime Achievement Award, that was sponsored by Amazon, and that brings money in that is used to supply the programs that are run to help students, education.
That's a really, really good thing, and I'm
Yeah.
glad that resource is there for the younger ones trying to come up.
No, and it's good. It's good. I just think, the problem is that people, all they see is that I was saying, I had a conversation with Stephen Cole saying, all people see are these glam pictures of the celebrities. I said, I don't really care about the celebrities. I want to hear what the CFDA is actually doing, and I think people want to hear.
Right.
They want to see the behind the scenes and the work that goes into it.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been very
Yeah.
interested in
Yeah.
what the CFDA is up to. I mean, I even signed up and I get
The newsletter?
The newsletter in my
Yeah.
inbox every week or every couple of days.
Yeah.
And that's brilliant. I get to know what's going on.
Yeah.
Getting to know what's going on.
And especially now with everything, like sometimes it's talking about the tariffs or where to sort things like this fabric. They also do appointments with legal people that you can tap into, whether it's for copyright. We went to do something with the copyright laws to Washington to lobby.
Wow.
I mean, there's definitely different programs, and there's also mentorship programs.
That's great. The mentorship is something that's definitely something that helps the community. Talking about you and Zero.
Yes.
I've followed Zero from when you started in Nolita, was it?
Yes, 1997.
Back in the day, New York was a very different place then.
Yeah.
You could still dance in clubs. You could.
You can still dance, they're just not there. They're in Bushwick.
Oh,
We're in
really?
Queens now, the clubs. Are.
Yes. And so, why Zero? What is your ethos?
Well, I called it Zero because after working in the fashion business and having a very high profile, I wanted people to come in and look at something at face value as a product rather than because it was my name or have any history associated with it. I worked for big companies. I did Richmond Cornejo, which was very high profile.
Absolutely.
We also had 23 stores in Japan with John when we were really young. So there was such a lot of hype and noise around it. So when I started in New York, I actually wasn't even going to make clothes. I was going to have a gallery space. I didn't want to be back in the fashion business. And with my husband, he was going to curate with me, like having friends to, you know, do exhibitions. And yeah, maybe I was going to make cushion covers and then whatever, something that didn't. And then I realized as I started that I wanted to start making things. Because it was a creative atelier. You know, the space I got was my dream space in a way, because after working all my life, you know, I had some money left, and then I put that into finding the space on Mott Street, which was a garage. And then it had skylights in the back, and the front was like a small store. But it sat empty for a year because I was heavily pregnant. My dad was dying of cancer. My granddad had just died. So basically it just sat empty. And then so it took, actually we opened in 98 because 97 Joy was born, 98, early 98. And the beginning, you know, for me zero was going back to the beginning, a number that doesn't add or take away. It's an organic shape, it has no beginning nor an end. But then in the end we couldn't just have zero because we were trying to sell in Germany, and then there was a company in Germany called Zero, and a friend had a store, and basically they confiscated everything, so then it ended up that I had to put my name in it because we were selling to Net-a-Porter and stuff. But I didn't want my name on it. So in the beginning it was on the back of the label.
I see, that's a little known tidbit. So so New York was a very different place then, and what would you say about the way you continued your career? What would you say your survival tactics are, and how would you advise younger ones trying to get ahead about surviving in this industry?
I think the main thing is that for me it's always about one, staying humble, two, seeing who your tribe is, who your client is, and remaining fluid, not being fixated on, you know, doing things in a certain way, because, you know, you have to adapt depending if there's money, if there's not. You know, I remember when we first opened the store the first day, and I was there with an 8-month-old and a 6-year-old and my friend Shrenika, who works at Calvin Klein now, and we didn't know if anything was going to sell, you know. And Bibi's, I remember Bibi, who is now a big photographer, my daughter, she was saying, "Mama, what happens if you don't sell anything?" I said, "Well, we'll just try again tomorrow."
Oh wow!
You know, and I think it's not having this fixated idea. Everybody thinks they're going to be some big star in fashion. It's not realistic. Not everybody's going to be Kate Moss. Not everybody's going to be, you know, Tom Ford. It's just, I think the main thing is that you have to stay honest and authentic to what you're doing and have a point of view.
Point of view is the key, isn't it? Yeah. I feel lately that I see, especially a lot of younger people trying to get into the fashion industry. And a lot of people think just slapping a label on a t-shirt or on a hoodie.
That's not being fashioned. I call that merch. You get a t-shirt, you stick I call that, it's like basically like merch. Like t-shirts, sweatshirts, it's like, that's not designed to me. You know, and I think that's the reality, is that, you know, it's one thing to be a designer, where you're actually designing. That's merchandising. And some people are very good at it, and they do really well with very little talent, but they're very good at merch, and they're very good on Instagram, and they're very good at promoting themselves, you know, and it's another talent.
Yeah. So what is your process of coming up with a collection?
Oh God.
Season after season after season?
Well, I meet with my lovely team. I don't work by myself. Lauren's here, design director. We talk about the fabrics. We talk about what needs to happen. I mean, it's very much a conversation, and the fabrics dictate the shape. I mean, when I first started, I wanted to work within, I had just moved to America, and I wanted to make things that were in basic fabrics that I was wearing, like a cotton t-shirt or denim or nylon, whatever it was, and I was upcycling a lot of the fabrics, and I got into the whole idea of geometry and finding a different way of cutting things, because I was sick of the fashion business. I didn't find it interesting, so I thought, what's going to make it interesting for me? to keep going,
Right.
to do this, you know?
Right.
So
obviously, I'm sure you have some. What would you say the pieces in your language, in your vocabulary of fashion that are your iconic statement pieces?
I think things that are, you know, a lot of things that originally started from like a circle, a triangle, a rectangle, a square, and all the things that came out of that, and all the versions of things. And it sounds really geeky, but you know, the other thing I love is like a curved line against a straight line, and how that drapes, and just
yeah, it's kind of very, very interesting, because I remember once I actually saw a lady wearing something that you made, and I knew it because of the pattern and the darts and the lines in it, and she was very surprised that I knew what it was. But you're very specific. So is that something that you developed? How did you get to this point of being able to? How did you develop your alphabet? In other words, in order to be able to write a story that you write season after season? The
vocabulary was developed originally from geometry. And it has evolved over the years, and you know, and when I'm working with my design team, we sort of like figure out the shapes and the construction, and it's, you know, I love volume. To me, I love the idea of things being quite sculptural. A lot of people thought I did architecture before fashion, but no, I mean, I'm a bit of a geek. It's what nerdy. That's what gets me excited, you know, coming up with volumes. So how do we, using basic materials, we make interesting clothes that you can wear every day, you know?
Yes.
Like the eco denim, you know,
Absolutely.
and you know, things that you can actually. I never liked the idea of fashion just being worn for special occasion. I always thought that, you know, especially moving to America, that, you know, why did I have to wear boring clothes just because I became a mom and because I wanted to wear jeans? Why did they have to be boring? You know, they could still be interesting.
Right.
And I think the world has caught up with that issue now. But, you know, at the time it was either that or you had to wear like Gap jeans. You know, it was just not many choices.
Okay, if you had to do it over again, what are the things that you think you would have done differently, if any at all?
Oh my God. I mean, if I had done things over again, I don't know if I would have done it differently. I just think it's... I'm not one for looking back, to be honest. I think it's pointless. We have to adopt what's in front of us and what's coming. Looking back, I mean, I did my best with my team. We had fun. You know, it's not been easy, but in retrospect, you know, like my sister said to me, can't you do things that are more commercial? And I said, well, I thought I was being commercial. Do you know what I mean? It's not, you can't be, one of the things that I decided a long time ago is I can't be something that I'm not. You know, and I was never corporate. I was never part of that infrastructure. And, you know, and I have friends who went straight into that, and, you know, now they're not working or whatever, they've gone into other things. Looking back, no, I don't know if I would have done anything differently, because I'm still evolving.
Absolutely, that's quite commendable that you've sort of stood with your story over the years. And I think it's a testament.
Of stupidity?
No, it's a testament to your vibe and to your language and to your ethos, you know, which is still continuing to grow. Talking about growth, are there any things that you feel that you have not explored, and also collaborations? Are there any that you would love to do? Or?
I mean, we've done things before. I did one with Noel, which was great. We've done things with Allbirds. We did, I'm trying to think, Keds.
Keds,
I would love to design a hotel one day. I don't know, a car. I mean, I really, I hate the way cars look, and I just got my driving license, so I would love to design a car. I don't know. I mean, I think if you're a good designer and you have a point of view, you shouldn't limit yourself to one thing.
Right.
And going back to my college years,
Yes.
and mixing with different practices,
Yeah.
I could design everything that you look around the room, whether it's a light bulb or a plug, it's been designed by somebody.
Right.
So I don't find that, you know, I could do, I mean, yeah, I can design clothes or I could do whatever, but I would find it more interesting to actually design maybe ceramics or, you know,
Right.
glassware, something that I haven't done before.
Absolutely.
I think it's just fun to explore.
Absolutely. That's great. And you mentioned about how a lot of designers go straight into the corporate. What do you think about this new thing where I feel sort of designers have become sort of guns for hire, if you will? And
Oh yes. Well, you know, the whole nature of the fashion business, that it eats its young. You know, like the magazines need a new, you know, flavor of the month to shoot alongside the advertisers to make the advertisers look new and the magazines look new, and so there's this constant like, you know, they bring them in, they give them overexpose them, and then they're out. And that's what they want. They want people to create noise. That's why all the big brands change designers every 3 years, because it gives press something to write about. You know, it's like, I keep saying to everybody, I should fire myself. Because it gives people, you know, the thing is that it does give people something to talk about.
Yes.
So who's coming in? You know, why is he leaving? What's going on? You know, it's like whatever. Because fashion needs newness in order for it to justify itself.
to exist, yeah.
To exist. It's about the newness. But actually, no, it doesn't have to be like that.
Yes. But do you, what do you consider the newness just for itself, as opposed to sort of sticking to a storyline?
I think we try to create newness within the vocabulary that's already there. You know, with the collection, you know, like we look through our archives, we have here like how many years, 27 years worth of collections to get inspired from, but there's always new things that come in, you know, there's always newness, but there is a vocabulary, and I think, yeah, there has to be you know, we either get excited about new textile or the way a color. I think we all need a little bit of newness. I think it's, you know, nobody wants to live in a totally beige world, and the whole thing about sustainability, I always said, you know, it doesn't have to be granola, it doesn't have to be all like undyed and everything. Like we've got the denim here that is undyed, but you know, over the years we've worked with mills and we've done incredible things, you know, with textiles and beautiful and rich and luxurious. It doesn't have to be boring.
Right. Yes, that definitely shouldn't be boring, or else it wouldn't be worth it.
Yes.
Do you think, you know, people in the fashion industry sort of jump on bandwagons, and how do you feel about that? You know, sustainability.
Oh God, don't get me started about the bandwagons. It's like, I hate when people ask me about trends. I hate trends, I hate bandwagons. I mean, right now, sustainability, the amount of companies that were like greenwashing, especially big companies, you know, and I always said with us, we're not 100%, but we try our best every season.
Right.
You know, and that's what we do. And I think the only thing you can do is try. And I think it's better to try than not to do anything.
Absolutely.
But the bandwagons exist, and you know, and there's always flavor of the month. And you know, what I don't like right now is that in order to be a designer, not only do you have to design the stuff, but you also have to be in front of the camera, and you have to be doing Instagram, and it's like, have your kids in the Instagram.
Right.
I mean, I am so not into that.
Right.
I mean, I find that a little bit like, you know, annoying, because I feel like the biggest luxury is privacy.
Absolutely.
And I don't mind people looking at the studio, whatever, but when it comes to privacy, I think there's limits. And
yeah, absolutely.
And I think one of the ethos for me has always been with working with women and, you know, within the team and everything, And like even with the people that have come in and out, you know, like I have an old assistant, ex-assistant 20 years ago who does beautiful jewelry and Alice Waste, and I have somebody else, and then, you know, all the kids have gone on to do great things.
Right.
And then we have amazing clients, and I always said to the PR girl, let's be cool by association. It doesn't have to be about me. It has to be about them, because we're in a really cool tribe, and the people that we work with are really talented. And it's really boring when it's the same thing over and over again.
Yes.
I'd rather be part of a creative community than be there on my own, you know?
Yes. I think talking about tribe, I hear you using that tribes quite a bit.
Yes.
And, do you
Community.
well, yeah.
It's community. I think we need community, especially right now. I think people become so isolated and not having conversations that now more than ever people need to be in a community and have good and comfortable conversations sometimes, you know. We don't always have to agree.
Well, we agree to disagree, right?
Yes, agree to disagree.
And on that note, I'd like to say again, thank you very, very much, Maria, for coming, doing this with us. I know I'd like to talk on and on and on, but I know you're very busy. And again, thank you very much. And I hope we can do another follow-up at some point in the future.
Oh, thank you so much.
And
Thanks for
I hope you have
having
a great trip when you go to the UK next week, you said?
Yes, I'm going to see my kids next week.
All the very best.
My grandkids
Your
as well.
grandkids. Thank you so much.
Thank you.